Chapter 8: Building Systems That Support People. At some point, every people first leader hears the same concern. This all sounds good, but where are the systems? It's usually said with caution, sometimes with skepticism, as if caring about people means abandoning structure, discipline, or accountability, as if leadership must choose between empathy and execution. I used to believe that tension myself. Early on, I swung between extremes. When things felt chaotic, I tightened control. When control started crushing morale, I loosened it. Neither approach worked for long. What I eventually learned was this: strong systems don't replace leadership, they reveal it. Systems are not neutral. They either support the people doing the work or they exhaust them. I've worked inside systems that looked efficient on paper but drained energy in practice. They created bottlenecks, confusion, and constant rework. People didn't struggle because they lacked effort or talent. They struggled because the system worked against them. And like many leaders, my first instinct was to push people harder. That was the wrong lever. I had to confront the uncomfortable truth. Some of the frustration I saw in my team wasn't a performance problem, it was a design problem. Processes had been layered over time, often in response to past mistakes or isolated issues. Each addition made sense in the moment. Together, they created friction that no one had stepped back to question. People weren't failing the system was failing the people. Building systems that support people starts with listening, not to complaints, but to patterns. Where do things slow down? Where does confusion show up repeatedly? Where do capable people feel stuck, frustrated, or over-controlled? Those signals aren't signs of resistance, they're feedback. When I stopped defending the systems and started studying them, everything changed. Conversations shifted from "who messed this up" to "why does this keep happening?" The shift alone reduces pressure. Supportive systems do three things well: they create clarity, they reduce unnecessary friction, they reinforce the culture instead of contradicting it. Clarity means people know what's expected without constant supervision. They understand where decisions are made, how work flows, and what done right looks like. Ambiguity doesn't create flexibility, it creates anxiety. Friction isn't always bad, but unnecessarily friction is. When systems force people to jump through hoops that don't add value, energy drains quickly. The goal isn't to remove effort, it's to remove waste. And most importantly, systems must reinforce the values leaders claim to care about. A culture built on trust cannot survive inside systems designed around suspicion. I learned that lesson when I realized some of our processes sent a very different message than my words. I said I trusted people, but required excessive approvals. I said I valued ownership, but centralized decisions. I said I wanted initiative, but punished deviation. The systems didn't match the culture, and the people believed the system. Building better systems requires humility. I had to admit that some processes existed because they made me feel more comfortable, not because they made the work better. Letting go of those controls felt risky, but keeping them was costing more than I realized. When we redesigned systems with people doing the work involved, something important happened. Buy-in increased, ownership expanded, accountability improved. People support what they help build. Supportive systems also respect reality. They acknowledge that people are human. The pressure fluctuates. That mistake will happen. Systems built for perfection collapse under stress. Systems built for resilience adapt. That means building in margins, clear handoffs, defined decision rights, space for feedback and adjustment, systems that bend without breaking. They aren't soft choices, they're durable ones. I also learned that systems don't need to be complex to be effective. In fact, complexity often hides dysfunction. The best systems are simple, repeatable, and visible. People can explain them. They know where they fit in. They understand how their work connects to others. When something breaks, it's easier to diagnose and fix. Complexity makes leaders feel busy. Simplicity makes teams effective. Building systems that support people also changes how leaders lead. Instead of being the bottleneck, leaders become stewards. Instead of solving every issue, they improve the system that allowed the issue to occur. Instead of managing individuals, they shape environments. That's leverage. And leverage is what allows leadership to scale. People first leadership doesn't mean people without structure. It means structure that works for people. When systems support people, pressure doesn't disappear, but it becomes manageable. People know what to do. They know who to work with. They know how decisions get made. That clarity frees up energy to focus on execution instead of survival. Performance improves, not because leaders push harder, but because systems stop getting in the way. I stopped seeing systems as constraints and started seeing them as commitments. Commitments to clarity, commitments to fairness, commitments to consistency. When systems align with values, leadership stops feeling like constant correction and starts feeling like guidance. Pressure exposes weak systems just as surely as it exposes weak leadership. Leaders who are built for pressure don't wait for systems to fail before improving them. They invest in structure when things are calm so that people are supported when things get hard. That preparation matters. In the next chapter, we'll look at what happens when leaders don't do this work, how pressure reveals cracks in leadership and culture, and why some teams fracture while others hold. Because pressure doesn't create weakness, it reveals it. That concludes this episode of Built for Pressure. Built for Pressure is a copyrighted work by Richard Levene. All rights reserved. This content may not be reproduced, distributed, or repurposed without permission. If this episode resonated, you can find the full framework at richardlevene.com.